right now. I'm gonna laugh.
30.
We are live. We're not like on TV. We're 30 seconds to live. 20.
Right now.
Going to A. Cool. 5, 3.
Tonight on Politicat, President Biden gave his second State of the Union speech last Tuesday. We have the highlights and a tease to his potential 2024 run.
Plus, a closer look at those devastating earthquakes that rocked both Turkey and Syria.
And we look ahead to Chicago's upcoming mayoral election, what you need to know.
Those stories and more tonight on Politicat.
It's your politics
Right now. Hello, I'm Simone Garber.
and I'm Paris Francois.
Hello, I'm Simone Garber.
And I'm Paris Francois. On Sunday, the U.S. shot down yet another flying unidentifiable object over Lake Huron, near Michigan. This makes it the fourth object to have been taken down over North America in the past 2 weeks. And though the object taken down over South Carolina on February 4th has since been identified as a Chinese spy balloon, the other three remain unidentified. Now, the White House must contend with frustrated lawmakers and a mystified public as it struggles to answer what these objects are and what they were doing.
2 earthquakes devastated Turkey and northern Syria last week. And as rescuers are working round the clock to save as many people as possible, the countries are beginning to grapple and adjust to this catastrophic new reality. Clocking in at 7.8 and 7.5 on the Richter scale, the quakes caused buildings to crumble, trapping people beneath the rubble. Take a look at these images. See the sheer devastation and destruction. The death toll climbing to over 33,000 as of Monday night, as rescue crews continue to work day and night to save as many lives as possible. International aid has been vital for survivors who've lost their homes during an unusually cold winter, with thousands living in temporary shelters. But in Syria, aid workers are struggling to get inside the country. This is because the government views foreign aid as a violation of sovereignty. The only point for aid to enter Syria was damaged in the earthquake, so convoys are slow to arrive, leaving those most vulnerable in desperate need of relief. In an effort to aid the countries affected, the U.S. issued Syria General License 23, which permits transactions for earthquake relief that wouldn't typically be allowed under Syrian sanctions regulations.
With Chicago's mayoral primary just 2 weeks out, polls are showing that the race could be a close one, with dead heat between 3 candidates. According to a recent poll conducted by WBEZ, the Chicago Sun-Times, and NBC 7 and NBC 5 and Telemundo Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot's re-election could be in jeopardy. Lightfoot is trailing closely behind 2 other candidates, former Chicago Public Schools CEO Paul Vallis and U.S. Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, the poll shows Garcia leading at 20%, Vallis at 18%, and Lightfoot at 17%. 8 out of the 9 mayoral candidates gathered for a forum hosted by WTTW News last Tuesday night. There was heated debate on key issues such as crime, which remains top of mind for many voters. Let's take a look at Lightfoot's response to candidate Willie Wilson's tough on crime stance.
What he's saying is that because you have the pain of loss of a victim of gun violence, as unfortunately way too many people in the city have, that we should turn our police department into a group of vigilantes to hunt down and kill people instead of abiding by the Constitution and giving them their day in court. What Mr. Wilson says is outrageous.
The mayoral primary election will take place on February 28th.
Looking towards Washington, President Biden gave his second State of the Union address last Tuesday, the first of his presidency with a divided Congress. Politicat's Luis Castaneda brings us the highlights.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
President Biden's State of the Union set his plan on key issues affecting the country, from gun control,
ban assault weapons now, ban them now,
abortion.
Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade.
And police reform.
When police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable.
The night began with a moment of bipartisanship.
I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
Tension grew with Biden remarking on Republican efforts to cut social services.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. As we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be funded. All right.
In light of low approval ratings, Biden championed his win on job growth and unemployment.
But unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low.
Biden ended his speech with a call against political violence.
I'm here.
There's no place for political violence in America. Because the soul of this nation is strong. Because the backbone of this nation is strong. Because the people of this nation are strong. The State of the Union is strong.
For Politicat, this is Luis Castaneda.
Thanks, Luis. Many saw Biden's speech as a soft launch for his 2024 campaign. Politicat's Logan Schijano is live from Washington, D.C. to talk about Biden's re-election prospects, while Brennan Leach brings us up to speed on all the political drama playing out on the Hill in recent weeks.
I'm Logan Schijano in Washington, where the president hasn't been much in recent days. He took trips to Wisconsin and Florida last week to tout his economic success. Those states will be key in the 2024 election. And speaking of which, the president has been quiet on his presidential run, saying he hasn't made up his mind whether or not to run. But this all comes as a new poll showed just 37% of Democrats want him on the ballot. That number was 52% prior to the midterms. So what do Democrats in Congress think? Well, many aren't committing one way or the other just yet. In fact, the common theme here seems to be, I'll support him if he runs. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was even less convincing. She said on CNN last week that she would enthusiastically support Biden if he were the Democratic nominee. We'll wait and see if Biden makes an announcement here in the coming weeks, but on the other side of the aisle, Republicans are dealing with their own primary drama. Nikki Haley is set to announce her candidacy tomorrow. She'll become just the second member of the GOP to enter the 2024 field and the first not named Donald Trump, someone she initially vowed not to run against. Take a listen.
I would not run if President Trump ran.
So what does Haley getting into the race mean for Republicans? Well, it could sway anti-Trump voters away from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. A Yahoo poll released last week found that DeSantis leads Trump in a hypothetical head-to-head matchup. But with Haley in the mix, Trump leads with 38% support to DeSantis' 35% and Haley's 11%. Obviously, there's a long way to go before Election Day and plenty of other candidates who could get into the mix, but let's throw it over to Brennan now for some more on the inter-party fighting going on right here at the Capitol. Brennan?
Thanks, Logan. While the race for the White House is heating up, so are the halls of Congress.
Because we came together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law.
In his first State of the Union address to a divided Congress, President Joe Biden emphasized unity. Democrats, however, claim that chaos and dysfunction within the GOP have made that goal nearly impossible. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke of a clear contrast between Democrats who get things done and extreme MAGA Republicans who want to turn back the clock. Ahead of Biden's speech, McCarthy requested that the president not use the phrase extreme MAGA Republicans to describe House GOP. The president honored that request, but was still met with heckles from several far-right members of the Republican caucus.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Well, I'm glad to see, and I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
Leader Jeffries called Green's behavior childish, aggressive, and petulant, and accused Republicans of catering to the far-right fringe of the country. Congressman Blake Moore, a Northwestern alum, told me that Democrats will continue to paint the Republican Party as chaotic and dysfunctional, but that these accusations are fundamentally wrong. Whether Democrats and Republicans will come together is yet to be seen as we enter high-stakes negotiations around the debt ceiling and other key issues in coming weeks. From Washington, D.C., this is Brennan with Politicat.
Thanks, Logan and Brennan, for your excellent reporting as always.
Coming up, the aftermath of those devastating earthquakes that rocked both Turkey and Syria.
And what to expect as the city of Chicago prepares to vote for its next mayor.
My narrative, since I've been locked up and kind of made my transition, has been like redemption, accountability.
When I come into the classroom environment, every individual that sits amongst me takes education seriously.
Two earthquakes hit Turkey and Syria last Monday, and rescue efforts have not been halted since. The first earthquake, hitting southeastern Turkey, measured 7.8 in magnitude, and the second, hitting northern Syria, 7.5. 13.5 million people live in the areas affected by the earthquakes, including 2 million majority Syrian refugees. According to Syrian and Turkish officials, there have already been 35,000 deaths and tens of thousands of injuries as a result of the earthquakes. As of Sunday, there were still an estimated 200,000 people trapped under rubble. With estimates of up to $84 billion in damages in Turkey alone, over 1 million people have been left homeless, forcing many families to have to live under tents and cardboard structures. As officials continue to pull survivors out of the rubble, the global effort to aid Syria and Turkey carries on. For Politicat, I'm Lance Wilhelm.
Thanks, Lance. We turn now to Chicago as the city is gearing up for its next mayoral election on February 28th, and the stakes could not be higher. With us now is Politicat's Sabrina Carson, who attended the forum last week where candidates went head-to-head. So, Sabrina, what were some of the main takeaways from candidates following the debate, and what should voters know about the elections?
Thank you, Paris. All 9 candidates happened to be at this debate, all of them hoping to be a front-runner or trying to defend their title as a front-runner. They were able to share some of their ideologies to help Chicago if elected. Some of the key issues included economics, housing, immigration, but this election season seems to be mostly focused on crime. I was actually able to ask Lori Lightfoot a question during a press conference after the debate about increased CPD funding. She reiterated her staunch position on the issue for not decreasing funding, stating, "We can't arrest our way out of the problem, we also have to invest." For Chicagoans that are looking to check if they are registered voters, they're able to check online at USA.gov and rock the vote. If they are not registered, they are able to fill out the application online, or they can look up their nearest participating DMV to do so in person.
Thank you so much, Sabrina.
So now, as the human rights crisis in China continues to deteriorate following the country's crackdown on the protests in Hong Kong, the Biden administration is working to protect residents of that city who currently live in the U.S. Politicat's Jeremy Fredericks is here with more. Jeremy.
Good evening, Paris. Last week, 2 activists were jailed for violating Hong Kong's national security law, which was passed to give more control of the semi-autonomous region to the mainland government. In January, President Biden announced an extension of a policy that allows Hong Kong residents to remain in the United States for at least the next 2 years, as long as they have not returned to Hong Kong or China, are subject to extradition, or committed a crime. They cannot be deported. The move comes after China has tightened its grip on the city. When Hong Kong was handed over by the British to China in 1997, it was supposed to have control of its government until the middle of the century. However, the Chinese Communist Party under Xi Jinping saw it differently. 3 years ago, the Chinese Communist Party imposed a national security law on Hong Kong, allowing extraditions to the mainland. Massive protests against the measure took place in 2019, but stopped because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The White House says since the law took place, more than 150 politicians and protesters have been taken into custody. When talking about the crisis in the past, the president has said the United States will continue to uphold democratic freedoms and human rights. However, it will not help those 2 activists who were each sentenced to over 5 years. Back to you at the desk.
Be tasted and judged by some of the most high-caliber judges you will find in all of the land.
It's the rally hosted by the National Rural Water Association. It's about much more than a little sip and schmooze.
Our attendees will they'll leave this event here.
Trying to work my way out of the prison system was the most difficult challenge of my life. It only became tangible once I became a Northwestern student.
My relationship with Giannis is unique. We're from the same country, we're from the same city. Being a Northwestern alum, I think, has tremendous advantages in the sports industry. To me, that community, it's been with me for 20 plus years.
Last week, the National Rural Water Association hosted its annual rally in Washington, D.C. Logan Schijano has more on one very special part of the rally that left some attendees overflowing with excitement.
A crowd flooded into the Capitol Hill Hyatt Wednesday for an event unlike any other.
Are we ready to start the competition?
They're here tasting one very important thing. Water? That's right, water.
Each year, the best of the best send their drinking water samples here to this prestigious event to be tasted and judged by some of the most high-caliber judges you will find in all of the land.
It's the 24th Great American Water Taste Test, and it's part of an annual rally hosted by the National Rural Water Association that's about much more than a little sip and schmooze.
Our attendees will they'll leave this event here today and go up and meet with their elected officials up on the Hill. Was that the best one?
42 state-winning submissions were judged, but how exactly do you judge water?
The criteria for this contest were based on clarity, bouquet, and overall taste.
Equipped with lab coats, scorecards, and crackers to cleanse their palates, they watered down the field and waved up a winner.
Zia Community Water System from New Mexico.
It's just exciting. Something that we've never ever experienced before.
The water was crystal clear. The bouquet was nothing out of the ordinary for water, and the taste was on par. Wasn't too hard, wasn't too soft.
These industry experts are vital to their communities.
And if you can't deliver clean community water, then that's where the health hazards start to come into effect to the community.
But most days, their work goes unnoticed.
I think this industry is something that people don't ever think about. It's a thankless job, and the professionals who do it deserve a huge round of applause and pat on the back.
And you know, wouldn't it be right if I came all this way and didn't give the best water in America a taste myself? So let's try it. That is good. In Washington, Logan Schijano, Medill News Service.
Thanks, Logan. Looks like we'll have to take a trip to New Mexico to taste some of that water for ourselves.
Well, that's all the time we have for tonight on Politicat.
Tune in on February 28th for Politicat's Chicago election special, where we'll be providing live coverage as the city of Chicago elects its next mayor.
It's been your politics right now.